Hello, everybody. Todd Hagen here, William MP, off to my right or left, whatever it is in your mirrored environment there with your video, whatever. We don't have a clip today, but we're going to talk about a topic that is probably something that all of you have confronted at some time in your man life and woman life, if you're of the opposite sexual persuasion. And this is this idea of traditional roles. I just, as what inspired me to talk about this today is I had a client the other day that was talking about how her husband is very, very traditional, and he won't wash a dish. He won't wash his socks. He won't fix a meal for the kids because he says that's all women's work. And of course we hear this all the time, but it's not considered a good thing to like tell your female partner that you're not going to help around the house because that's women's work. And I think there's a bit of a confusion in the culture between, say, an archetypal role play or an archetypal position that men and women, females, males, whatever we're going to call that, biological or otherwise, is archetypally driven to do. And I think there's an error in assigning roles like washing dishes or cleaning the house to an archetypal feminine. We can see why they come out of that, why those roles may be associated and somehow correlated with it. But as them being rigid roles, I don't think so. And I think we should talk a little bit about that because I think there's a very common thing today in this idea of that women do this, the whole trad wife thing, and men do this. And we can go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this client's obstinance aside, the question that comes up often is, do polarity teachings, the idea that we can see our lives through the lens of the masculine and the feminine. Is their ultimate conclusion traditional conservative gender roles? Rigid roles in which the man is expected to be the breadwinner and the woman is expected to be the homekeeper, and that's that. And that the house is in balance and harmony to the extent that they're both doing their jobs. And the answer is no.
No. That's it.
Absolutely not.
Okay, all you guys out there.
let me extrapolate. Yeah. So sorry to the obstinate husband who won't.
Well, actually, it's the other. The client was the woman.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Right.
So whatever.
The husband,
but he is obstinate. You're right. The one I didn't see is the obstinate one. Yeah.
His obstinance will get no free pass, no rubber stamp from us.
No.
No. Essentially, I mean, what are we talking about here? So a conservative mindset, usually that's based in religion. So most often we see that, or most unapologetically in the West, we'll see that in Christian conservatives, for example. But also you can see that in Orthodox Jewish households. You can see
God, yeah.
Households, whatever, Hindu. But so no, I mean those are an oversimplification, like stereotypes. They're an oversimplification and over narrowing of what is ultimately first archetypal, biological, and evolutionary, and it can be easily confused, right? So, okay, one thing about polarity teachings, we would say that if the polarities are switched, if the female-bodied or feminine-identified person in the relationship is taking on the masculine roles, and if the male-identified person taking on the masculine is taking on the feminine roles, and that's causing a problem, that's causing tension, we would look to say, well, what happens if we reverse those roles? What would happen if the male could take the masculine roles on and the female could take the female roles on? Does that improve things? And if so, great, hallelujah. How can we make that sustainable?
Yeah, but you're still in doing that. I think that's great, but you're still defining roles as a particular thing. And I mean that's cool. I think what you just said is absolutely useful. But what are feminine roles?
But it's not about roles, because roles becomes rigid. That's when it's like
right. But let's go into a little bit as to why people think this and why it's not necessarily a stupid thing to think. There's a lot of history in it, just like you said. There's a lot of religious implication in it as certain religions. But what are the religions based that on?
So yeah, conservative people who are interested in roles, rigid roles, right? That are imperatives. A woman should and a man should do this and that. They're first of all, they're ancient, right? Okay, so they're coming from a time in which human beings had a lot less freedom. We didn't have a whole lot of freedom to play around with these things.
Right.
They're also they are partly biologically and evolutionary based. But for the Christian conservatives and for the Orthodox Jews and for Muslims, they are biblical, they are Torah based, they are Quran based. Those rules are followed because that's what's written in the book, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But let's take the book out of it, just hypothetically. Is there any natural tendency to not necessarily follow the rules? Because again, what I'm trying to do here, and I'll keep pushing at it, is to define the archetypal. What is archetypal, and what is human presented rules? Whether it's through religion, the book, whatever. What is which is which? What is I think the rules, even the rules that are in the book, are rules that came out of the archetypal demands or the archetypal proclivities. I mean, I always think of archetypes as just it's just the nudge. It's not even a rule. It's not like a thing. Oh, men have to do this, and women have to do this. It's more of what you have a tendency toward. And of course, humans are very diverse. You can have a man that's constellating feminine archetypes and he's perfectly normal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And vice versa. We had the tomboy syndrome with girls growing up in the 50s and 60s. They were tomboys, and it's like they were constellating the masculine proclivities or tendencies or compulsions or whatever it might be. When we go into the same, when we start saying, well, this is what the archetype is. The archetype says the woman does the dishes, and the archetype says the man goes out and makes money. And I don't think that's true. Yeah, that's just not. I mean, it's not. It's close to there. There is a fundamental thing in it that you could interpret it that way. But like we were saying before we went on talking about this, or I was talking about this idea that the feminine, the archetypal feminine, her business is more defined within a certain environment, a certain, whether it be the tribe, whether it be the cabin, the hut, whatever, it's what's there, where she finds good grubs and where she finds a good bush that has good berries on it, or where she finds the whatever for taking care of her children or the children of the tribe or whatever. It's more of a concretized area where the mask,
the center of the mandala, not the edges.
Yeah, the locus of control. And where the masculine has been known to be one that goes out hunting, looking for the immigrating gazelles that come from the north and, come in a huge herd. His environment is much more expansive. And therefore, we come to this conclusion, well, women work on the home and men work on the whatever and bring home stuff for his family to feed off of.
The balance works because when the men are supported at home, they can come home exhausted and there's a meal ready for them. They don't have to worry about whether or not the children are fed and whatever. They can pour themselves into the work of going out and being on the boundaries, protecting against invaders and procuring what's needed for the family. And so there is that support system, that balance, right? The women rely on the men to go out and to secure safety and to bring home the bacon, so to speak. And the men rely on the women when they come home that they are supported so they can do that. And there's a kind of symbiosis in that, and it works when it's in synergy. Under tight evolutionary circumstances, that needs to be kind of the default. And religion is about warning us not to deviate from that at our peril. Because we know from examples of the past how when we have deviated from that, things fall apart. So under these rigid survival scenarios where there's very little room for error, religion comes along to remind us to stick to the trusted, straight and narrow path, as restrictive as it might be. It's a place of safety. It's a place that's reliable, and high efficiency.
and high productivity, high creativity.
Right.
You know, one of the things humans have always dealt with, and for some reason when we're living our life, we never think of this, is that once 100 years go by, you can be pretty sure that anybody that started that 100 years is no longer there. It's no longer around. I mean, that's such an obvious thing. When you think about human history, the hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of times everybody has perished and the next ones begin. They, of course, overlap and everything. But part of this whole rigidity that religion set up to say, follow these rules, is based on experience from the past. It's like saying, you know, we've been around a long time. This is why. You know, we have a family, we have children, the wife stays at home and takes care of the children. You go out and you work, come back. No brainer. Don't even think about it. Don't be driven by something else because it doesn't work. This is what works. Right. Now, we live in a culture now where, like you said right at the very beginning, it's just not rigid like that anymore. There's more freedom. There's more awareness that we can do things that are a little different than what the doctrine says to do. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there's truth in what that doctrine said to do. Yeah. Because again, archetypally, if we're not looking at religion or anything, we're just looking at the archetypes. That's the one thing we can learn. The archetypes are consistent. They go through these tens of thousands of generations.
Right. And we know them because they're transhistorical, transcultural, right? So
right.
Example. So you might say, oh, well, the examples that you've given, Judeo-Christian Islamic, are all of a certain region, a certain time, whatever.
Yeah.
Sure, right. But you see the same thing in Theravada Buddhism.
Yeah, right.
Literally, it's the way of the elders. We do it because that's what the Buddha said to do, and we follow what he said. And we're gonna withhold what he said, and we're not going to deviate. We're going to protect it as sacred and trust that that's the right way. And we are wary of progress. We're wary of experimentation, because these were the Dharma was what got the Buddha to his own enlightenment. So that's the formula. We don't deviate from the formula. We know it works. Don't mess it up. Right.
Yeah, and you'll be punished if you do.
Right. The evolution of the evolution of Buddhism is then you get the Mahayana Buddhists that say we can expand that into staying out of nirvana for our own personal sake and staying with the Avalokiteshvara, that like I choose not to enter into nirvana so that I can commit myself to the liberation of all. Right.
Well, this was congregational wisdom for the masses. Mm-hmm. And all the major religions have the more metaphysical, deeper, versions of them, like Sufism and the esoteric, that deal with these deviations from the rule. Yep. And most people didn't want to bother with that. Most people were busy keeping the grasshoppers out of their wheat and stuff like that, and being able to survive and to live. So following the basic rules of a pretty certain, guaranteed, decent life was fine with them. Leave all that weird stuff up to the few people that were, aesthetic.
Progress is threatening and going outside is threatening, and so to those who feel threatened by progress and letting go, they will try to persuade people that deviation from that is at your own peril, and that we need to cling to this because it's what's right. Meanwhile, the reality is that actually it's no longer necessary. We've evolved past it. The reason that we cling to it is because it works for you. And that would be classic patriarchy, holding on to this rigid structure out of a fear of losing it.
Congregational wisdom was always, at its best, was meant to keep the masses procreating and alive, but it was control. Essentially, it's control over the masses as one unit, as opposed to free thinking and everybody coming up with different ideas and creativity and whatever. And that's, of course, what we're breaking out of and have been for a little while, is breaking out of that. But the unfortunate part to that is that by breaking out of it, we refuse to follow any rules. It's like we want to take the light socket and stick our tongue in it. It's like, well, I don't give a shit about electricity. I don't care if it'll kill me. I don't care about that. I don't care if looking at this cell phone 24 hours a day is going to cause me to lose all my social structure and not be able to mature into a social system. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Fuck that. I do whatever I want. I'm free. And the problem is that we're not free. You drink poison, it'll kill you. It's like you stick your finger in a light socket, you'll get electrocuted. It's those are the rules, and we refuse to follow any rules. Oh, that's authority. It's like, screw
Right.
that.
And that's Kierkegaard's whole thing. We have the plane of immanence and transcendence, and you are obliged to transcend, but don't cut the tether, because then you become adrift and unmoored. And I think that's why people worry, like, oh, and the propagandists love to say, oh my God, the rise of the extreme far right, people with tiki torches are coming for women's rights. It's rooted in a resurgence of conservative thinking, because the world is perceived to be in a place of chaos. And when the world is in a place of chaos, people will revert to overly simplified, rigid, conservative, role-based kind of thinking and organization, because it protects against the chaos of the world.
It brings it back together.
But for those who are benefiting from progress, they love to make people ashamed of themselves for wanting to do that. Meanwhile, it's like, no, there are many who are benefiting from progress and liberalism that don't want to let that go, that don't want to revert back, because they feel like they're going to lose their privilege that they've achieved, which is the same accusation that they throw at people like this guy. Oh, you're just holding on to these old patriarchal roles because they benefit you. They don't benefit your wife. They benefit you. So you're going to cudgel her with these ideas of religion and whatever in order to maintain your power. Well, you can do that on the other side as well. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you in this case, and I think this would apply to quite a few people, if not everybody.
Right.
Any man that tells his wife, I'm not going to wash the dishes because it's women's work, he's coming from a boy perspective. He's got some major issues. He's not a real man, as they say. He's not a fully integrated masculine male man. Those are all boy things. You could tell mom, you don't want to do the dishes. I want to go play my video game upstairs. So screw you. I'm not going to do the dishes or make up my bed or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
those are anti masculine archetypal systems to be that way. I mean, that's a thing we hear Jordan Peterson. Huh?
They're immature.
They're immature. Yeah. I mean, put it simply, it's immaturity. We hear Jordan Peterson talk all the time about making your bed. That's like one of his kind of sound bites, is to say you get up in the morning at the same time every morning, and even if you have nothing to do, you make your bed. You clean your room, or you fix your eggs if you're there by yourself, or even if you're with a partner. So narrowing these masculine archetypal things down into these roles, these actual activities, is like, it's fun to do that and to sit there and say, oh, I'm a man, I don't have to wash my socks. But it's nonsense. It has no place or relevance in the archetypal system.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, but it gratifies our infantile impulses.
Yeah, absolutely.
The joke that I was making is that the work for her is more how to understand and address her partner's infantile defiance, and where that's because it's fundamentally coming from an insecurity in him.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to let go of this. I'm afraid what happens. I'm afraid that I won't be able to meet the demands that you're asking of me. Like, I don't know how to do the dishes, and I don't know how to wash my socks, and I don't know how to cook dinner. If you push me to do them, I'm going to fail, and I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold myself in love and acceptance if I do that. That's the core. And you say that's got absolutely nothing to do with conservative roles. That's all just cover for his own fundamental insecurities and immaturities.
Oh, yeah. And he also doesn't know how to do any of these things.
Well, exactly.
I mean, to focus on this particular person, he has a certain kind of childhood where he was completely, taken care of by the mother, and he doesn't even know how to do them. And certainly, again, this is a problem. This isn't like the integrated man is like this, but it's very common for men to not attempt to do things they don't know how to do, unless they're willing to learn it. That isn't true. I shouldn't say
higher
that.
Cost, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you're getting to a core of something here in the dynamic, which is that the masculine resentment toward the feminine is always based on dependence.
Yes.
Under patriarchy, you become, because when there's rigid roles, men do men's things, women do women's things. What happens under that is that men are now very dependent on women because they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to. And so you cannot, if you ask them to do that, they will immediately become insecure because they don't know how to do it, and they're overly dependent, which then creates resentment. I resent the fact that I'm so dependent upon you, that I'm obliged somehow to sort of keep you happy because I can't do those things. And
then that leads to the fear of rejection.
And then that's met with
right.
domineering, threatening, cudgeling, right? Because
as
a trauma reaction to avoid having.
And it's extreme, and the dark extreme path to take, the dark path to take will result in that. But there's also the fear that if you don't satisfy the feminine embodied in your partner, then you'll be rejected by her. And she will see, and then you won't get any sex, you won't get any intimacy, you won't get any divine connection with her if she rejects you.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that's true, that happens. I'm just saying that's a fear, the fear of rejection through incompetence, essentially. This is my job. These are my duties. I'm the man. I go out and I bring home the money. I have a 6,000 square foot house. That should be enough. I don't have to go and do these other things too. So don't ask me. Don't put that on me, because I don't know how to do them and I don't want to do them. Blah, blah, blah. And for the reasons you're saying, as well as, it's an unconscious thing. I mean, it's certainly not conscious to think, well, I will be rejected then if I don't follow suit.
It always comes down to a fragmented self, disintegrated self, in your wholeness, because when you're in your wholeness, you're not desperately clinging to the other person.
No, exactly.
And so
100%.
And the dependence and resentment thing, I mean, is even more starkly clear in the incel thing. Right? Like, I'm 100% dependent on women to gratify my, my sexuality and my connection to the divine. And because that's being withheld from me, now I resent that, as opposed to, oh no, what to do, work on you. When you're working on wholeness within yourself, when you can find access to the feminine within yourself, when you can love yourself enough, you're not desperately looking to a female bodied partner to give, or women to give that to you. And then when you don't get it, turn that into resentment. So wholeness is the key. And a deep connection to your own ability to nurture yourself, love yourself. That's what leads to toxic patriarchal resentment, vilification.
Yeah. No, there's no question that. But there's another. I feel like there's another element to this, is that human beings are, because they're material creatures, they have senses. They interpret the world around them typically through their senses and through a certain physical awareness to things. So when they see a sunset or hear a beautiful piece of music or look at a beautiful piece of art, it's a reminder of something they already possess. They don't need that in order to be connected with the thing they already possess, which is the source, their divinity, whatever it might be. They're reminded of it. So most humans, I think, spend most of their life looking for reminders. They're looking for beauty. They're looking for the feminine. They're looking for those things because it reminds them of what they already know they have if they're fully integrated. If they're not integrated, they believe that those things exist outside of themselves and have to bring them in. So that's when we run into the problems we're talking about now. That's anima, projection, possession, whatever it might be. You're not fully integrated, so therefore you think that the woman holds your femininity, and you have to grab it and take it, and there's all kinds of things that come as a result of that. However, we're always compelled to be reminded of what we already have in our heart. So if we're fully integrated, that doesn't mean we have no need for a woman, or and it's the need becomes a desire more to be reminded of the truth about ourselves. And I think people get that mixed up all the time. I mean,
so an integrated self is not enough. You still need connection to other people. It's about being complete enough in myself that I'm not desperately clinging.
Exactly.
That I don't depend on you to meet those needs.
Exactly.
I'm improved by being able to be in a symbiotic relationship so that I can meet your needs and you can.
And that's the thing I don't think at least most of my clients don't get.
So, and that's the problem. Yeah. Well, in this guy, so like, what is one of the fundamental problems here? So, if men and women are fully actualized in their masculine and feminine, which is what polarity teachings are, it's about like, okay, I'm out of balance. So it's not about doing this. Oh, you need to be, and this is a classic mistake from the 60s and 70s. Oh, you should be less masculine, and then that'll be better. No. You need to be as masculine as you possibly can and as feminine as you possibly can and try and meet that balance. What are we talking about? That a man should know how to do every domestic necessity possible. You need to know how to wash clothes and darn socks and cook for yourself and nurture children and all those things. And you should be comfortable with that. So that if it comes a time when you need to rely on yourself, you can, and you're not desperately clinging to other people for that. Just like women should be able to be fully educated, should be capable of being able to support themselves financially and have a career and to have an intellectual life on their own, to be able to go out and make changes in the world, as much as they should also have the capacity to be take care of themselves. When we're full enough in that way and complete enough in that way, now when we come together, what's bringing us together is a relationship that is based on desire and love, that's mutually beneficial, that's not a trauma-based codependent clinging desperately for you to meet needs that I can't meet for myself. And there's a liberation in that, right? It also comes down to that classic thing about better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Right. And that's about integrating these contrasexual characteristics. Right. It's better to be fully integrated than to be relying desperately on others, because if that reliance is challenged, you become desperate and you lash out and become reactive and behave unskillfully, which is what toxic shadow patriarchal kind of systematic oppression of women is. It's oh my God, what are we going to do? We're so disconnected from that in ourselves. We're reliant and we're resentful, and therefore we feel like we have to control that. You can't.
Yeah, I have to power over it. Right.
I'm going to create rules and Sharia law that mean if you leave me, I can beat you because I need you, because I have that in me. And if you leave me, I'm fucked. So that's what this is all about.
Exactly. Gee, it seems so simple. No, but you're 100% correct.
It seems so simple, but in that case, what do you do with a man like this who has obstinate, defiant, adolescent parts of him
Well, the idea is simple, obviously, and as you know, being a therapist, it's always like, okay, I figured you out. I know exactly what needs to happen, and it's like, well, how do I make it happen? And you go, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like it. Yeah, it's like live your life over again, get reborn so that you can go through your childhood with some conscious sense about what's going on around you.
Right.
I mean, it's tough. It's very tough because you've got it in your psyche. You've got the ego. You've got all kinds of complex systems that are working against change, working against learning something different and becoming a different, fully integrated person. It's telling you, no, you don't need to do that. That's why men don't go to therapy. I mean, that's very, very common. I don't need that. I'm okay.
More and more men do, but why?
Well, they do now, but they didn't traditionally. And in fact, this guy won't. That I'm talking about, he won't go to therapy. Now,
yeah. Well, bridging the gap between knowing that and knowing how is kind of the mid game of the psychospiritual process that many really struggle with. I've a lot of clients have brought them to this place of, okay, so I know what's going on.
Yeah,
I know that, but like, how do I? And that's the part of the journey where I'm like, well, this is where I leave you. This is like, I know I'm here to show you what needs to be done. You're the one, but how do I actualize it? And I think a lot of quote unquote evidence-based top-down therapy, CBT and stuff is an attempt to try and continue to guide you in that way. Okay, let me handhold you through how to get your shit together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there's a lot of wisdom in the you take it from here. This is what happens in the privacy of your own heart. You know now that you need to show up more. How do you show up more? I like to say to people, I don't know how you do that, and even if I did, I wouldn't tell you, because I wouldn't want to rob you of the opportunity to learn to do that for yourself.
Well, that's part of the healing, is to learn to do it yourself.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not, you are, and again, I'm not going to bash CBT, but it's one of its limitations is just that. It's like if you can do something on a checklist, and you're capable of doing that, yes, you can get somewhere with it, but it's not going to stick the same way, because that's all part of the ecosystem. Go, oh yeah, just do this.
Yeah,
just do those things. You'll be okay. Then you'll be fine.
Yeah, but everyone knows that CBT is a band-aid solution. Everyone that's been through it, because and the evidence is there. So
Right.
is it me bashing CBT to point to the evidence that says its effectiveness drops off when you finish? It's like
Right.
when you're going
Right.
through CBT,
Right.
you learn these skills and your life improves, and then the minute you stop doing it, you go back to
Yeah.
baseline. Whereas long-term psychodynamic therapy, where you learn for yourself, takes a lot longer, but then the outcomes are vastly improved in 5 years.
Sure. Yeah.
Check-ins. So but what we're talking about though is the need to become as fully actualized as possible, and the realization, like I think in this case, I'm going to assume that this guy is probably what, in his 60s and 70s.
No, God, no. He's they have 2 small children. I don't want to say too much about him.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he's probably 40, 37.
Okay, that's a different thing then.
Yeah.
I made the assumption that obviously then I'm going to jump to a vision of a 70-year-old man who's got this
right.
obstinate view. But anyway, my point was just simply going to be that the efficacy of therapy and counseling falls off the cliff the older you get. I mean, once you get to 70, forget it. So I mean, that's how it works.
That's why I forgot it.
I'm actually quite happy that a lot of my client base is younger people, 20s and 30s. Great, because like that's when we can actually set ourselves.
Well, true. Yeah, most of mine are too. Yeah, I have very few.
Yeah, and nearly impossible when you get to later years. But it's about being fully actualized, right? Being able to get out of our own way, so that we can be fully ourselves and have the capacity to engage in the world unfettered. And develop skills, develop talent, develop wisdom and interpersonal relationship skills. Because the more actualized you are, the stronger and more capable you are, the less daunting the world seems.
Mm-hmm.
Part of
absolutely.
Yeah. Feels that the world is so fucking daunting is because they don't feel capable of meeting it.
No, right.
So anxiety comes from, oh my God, the world's going to overwhelm me, and I won't know how to handle it.
Right. And realizing you never will know how to handle it. It's like a lot of people try to handle it and believe there's something deficient about them if they can't. Like, why do I have panic attacks and nobody else does? Yeah. Why can't I handle this? And they want to come to therapy for me to tell them how to handle it. And I go, you can't. You can't handle this. It's like all you can do is ignore, that, what is that serenity speech? It's like, have the wisdom to tell the difference between what you can do and what you can't do.
I can change to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, it's that simple, folks. Now, let me go back to something with this. I mean, not specifically this case, because this isn't really what's happening in the case, but just in general, this role play idea. Let's say we've got a really strong role play system going on in a family.
Sure.
And the woman works her butt off all day. She's doing all the traditional things. She's taking care of 3 kids. She's fixing everybody their meals, taking them to school, and doing all that crap. Then the husband comes home. He's doing his job. Okay. He's bringing in tons of money, working his butt off, dealing with whatever horrors that exist in big business or any business, construction worker, whatever. It's pretty horrible shit to have to deal with. It's not necessarily worse than what the woman's dealing with, but it certainly is on some kind of equal plane, typically, okay, with stress and anxiety and physical work and all of that. So he comes home and he's got all this money he's dumping into the house, and she expects him to take over her roles. At that point, when he walks in the door, she goes, I've been with these kids all day.
And he comes.
Yeah, here they are. Okay, play with them, fix them dinner, put them to bed, give them a bath, whatever it is. Classic. Because she can't play his role, she doesn't have the opportunity to go to his job, and he can't say to her, okay, dear, do this. He comes home to her job, and then she expects him to play his role in it as father and husband. So what do we do with that?
Okay. All right. So this is where we are greatly indebted to the likes of James Hillman and Adler. So we're gonna move from the Jungian to the Adlerian.
Okay, great.
What the fuck is wrong with the society that we are living in, that we have gotten to the point where both men and women playing these roles are completely fucking exhausted?
Right.
And before you start looking at what's wrong with me, we need to ask what's wrong with the environment that we're living in. That this is
Really? Dare say.
and this is where and the idea of politicizing the therapy space is a we could do a whole episode on that, especially now that we're in these like very heated, polarized times. But the and this was the Living Institute where I was a student and you were a teacher. They were very much in line with this. The question should be how do you alchemize that frustration and not put it onto each other?
Yes.
Each other and turn it outward and say, we need political change. We need economic change so that we're no longer living under a system where we're constantly trying to keep our heads above water and then turning on each other and fighting each other and putting it on each other. We need to attack the system that is oppressing us in this way in order to make change. Because there are people, and this is probably your territory too, there are systems of oppression in place that are benefiting from us tearing each other apart, thinking that it's about
you think so?
Your own shit. And they love it. What do you say? Like they shake the ants.
Yeah. It's one of my analogies. It's like you shake the jar with the black and red ants in it, and they start to kill each other. Yeah.
So what I think would be a perspective that James Hillman would take, and again, correct me in the comments below if you think I'm misrepresenting James Hillman, but he would say we need to consider that. We need to look at the environment under which this is happening, and to be in a place of anger and rage about those conditions, and to not turn that and to not throw water on that rage, to turn that and direct it into righteous
as a team.
As a
family team. Yeah. Now tell me though, because maybe I'm ignorant with this and you would know this. I definitely 100% agree with you. What is it though about the political environment that impacts the level of exhaustion from the homemaker? What other than education and school, because that definitely does, but what makes her job more exhausting than it should be, taking care of, say, little kids, preschool kids at home and cooking and whatever for them? Is it because there's no community? Is that primarily what it is?
Let's do economics first and politics second. Economically, it comes down to a very simple statistic.
Okay.
The number of hours that you need to work in order to survive economically and in order to thrive. And the number, if we look at it, since World War II, whatever, turn of the century, is this.
But that's his job. If he goes away, if he's the money, go ahead.
Part of the problem is that when you now post affirmative action, women are given the freedom to enter the workforce. Now society adjusts so that women must join the workforce.
That's all part of the agenda, though.
This is where I'm sure you're gonna go enlighten us into the theory behind that. But there's stepping up of that, and it's the ramping up of that, and so the number of hours is just going up and up and up. So like she's exhausted because not only does she take care of the house, but either one of two things: she also has to work, or he's not bringing enough money. So that there's too much pressure. She can't get daycare. She can't get a nanny to help out or a babysitter. There's not enough money to make her. She can't, whatever. And so there's just this top-down economic pressure on.
Okay, that definitely would apply. Yeah. I was making kind of a hypothetical, idealistic scenario in my head, which may not exist. Okay, but that she has no problems. Let's say he brings in enough money to take care of everything you're saying. She doesn't have to work. She has no other issues other than making meals, cleaning the house, and taking care of the kids, and that's it. And he comes home exhausted because he's working. That's another story. Mm-hmm. Okay. But she insists that he take the kids and she can go lie down or whatever. Are you saying that in that scenario, in that perfect kind of leave it to beaver scenario, that she wouldn't be exhausted to the degree that we're talking, that the culture is what's pushed her into a position of having to have a second job, or at least being told over and over and over again by the culture that she isn't a full woman unless she has a career and goes out and works and that's again the feminist idea.
Right. Well, right, and the influence of a misunderstanding or a more toxic, or more patriarchal form of feminism, which is the best way to put it.
You got to blame it on us, don't you, William?
The patriarchal form of feminism has instilled a belief in the woman that there's something wrong. There's that she's being taken advantage of. Why should I have go through a day? No, you are lapsing your duty because you're not also taking on my role. So take the kid. How dare you not?
And that's a patriarchal consequence.
100%. Yeah. But it's patriarchy masquerading as feminism. And that's one of the biggest problems that we see now, is that feminism has been hijacked by patriarchal instincts. When you hear, I love this. I almost bought this sticker because I love it so much. Smash the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
smash the patriarchy. Right. Why? Because all they do is run around and exert control over people and abuse them and smash them.
Yeah.
But smash the patriarchy. You see? You see
something? You know the difference, you know, and this is interesting. You'd bring this up because it's really making me think about this. I would blame the agenda, not the patriarchy, but I'm not sure if you can separate the two. Certainly the agenda is patriarchal, but I'm not sure if it's sexually patriarchal, meaning the patriarch. I think it's
territory, but I agree. I think I agree with you that it's value neutral. It's simply power based.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, everything you're saying I agree with, but I'm not sure if I would blame that on the traditional patriarch.
Well, there's multiple forces at play here. So there's going to be your belief that there is actually a concerted agenda to increase the pressure on working people in order to force compliance to an agenda.
And part of that is radical feminism. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there also is just a natural evolution within the philosophy that they've become kind of intertwined. There's also the fact that that patriarchy loves to occupy, right? So it's like, oh, we're going to take.
Well, it's certainly masculine. It certainly
occupies feminism because it wants to take over. But there's one more thing, and I want to come back to what you said, because I think we're missing another piece here, which is all of this is happening in an environment in which everyone becomes siloed, isolated, nuclear family, communities fall apart. Everyone lives in four walls, for a family, thinking that we're going to do it, take care of ourselves. And if and there's no one there to support you unless you're rich enough to have nannies and cleaning ladies and whatever. But when you have the erosion of community, when there's no community support, when you can't disperse the survival needs amongst many, so that it's not pressured on one, that's another kind of fundamental crack in the foundation, that when the pressure comes from the top, things start to fall apart.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't really, I mean, it's fine that we did this, but personally, I make it a point not to go into this whole agenda conspiracy shit and whatever. Just because we did, or because I did, let me just make this one comment that makes it's not so much that the agenda is led by evil human beings, and in the case that we're talking about, men or the patriarch or whatever it is, the result of the agenda, the power behind the agenda, may not be people. It could be just energy. I mean, we're getting into a metaphysical concept behind it. I mean, people could say it's the devil.
Well, that's what I would call it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could, or an egregore, which is just a thought, a mind system that creates this disruption and whatever. So it doesn't have to be people that are all sitting around going, oh, let's figure out a way to make this work in our favor. It could be that. It could be that, but it doesn't have to be that.
The World Economic Forum.
Yeah, right. Because there are people that appear to be the instigators of all of this, but I think it's more subtle.
String for a deeper impulse. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
From a transpersonal perspective.
Right.
I would say that the archetypal energy that's driving the Catholic Church, the World Economic Forum, in their how they've been those agendas have been hijacked, is what we would call, and I actually think it's a good word, is the devil. Yeah. It's a Christian borrow. I'm not
now is the devil archetypally a trickster?
Is the devil archetypally a trickster? The trickster is devilish, but it's not the devil. It's
Well, not the trickster. I'm saying the other way around. Is the devil, whether it be a thing or an energy, is it primarily driven by a trickster energy?
So it's those things. So the satanic impulse, the archetypal satanic impulse, is latches onto, or is kind of connected to the trickster in the same way that the opposite, the shamanic, is connected. And
Yeah.
But so what do I mean when we say the devil? Do I mean a little red guy with a pitchfork shove you in the ass when you're doing, make you fuck up? And what I say is it's the archetypal forces of antagonism that come up in direct proportion to our will and desire to spread light. So when there are forces of goodness and progress and light and maturation and transformation that come up, there is this force that comes up to meet it that tries to push it back. Right. And so it's the inner critic in you. It's procrastination. It's confusion. It's, the thing that we have to push through in order to get something good. And it's at its worst, it comes in the form of, human traffickers and child rapists and these cabals, all of which are trying to attack the core of the sanctity of at the core of the universe, the loving awareness at the core of the universe. So, how does the trickster come into that? It's a good one. Trickster is a very interesting thing because it's both shamanic and anti-shamanic. It's both devilish and satanic and anti, right? So it's a force that will eviscerate fundamentalisms and bullshit and capacity to avoid toxic gurus and cults and political ideologies that take you over and possess you. It's your capacity to efficiently and miraculously, in a way, cut that shit to shreds. Turned against you, it's your ability to cut yourself to shreds.
Yeah. Okay.
And what it does, and how it becomes attached to the satanic impulse is, I really want to become an artist, but man, every way conceivable that anyone's ever thought of to put paint on the canvas has already been done. Who the hell am I to think that I would do any better? I don't have the time for it anyway. And besides, the art world is so corrupt and fucking bullshit. It's that your every single thing is right.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
And you can come up with this inventory and you can creatively attack yourself in a way that will shut you down and you'll never do anything good. It's the same impulse when someone's trying to manipulate you that you see through their bullshit and cut them down. That you avoid fundamentalism, but you also avoid your greatness.
Yeah.
And so it's the kind of fulcrum point. And Trickster is a very, very interesting thing because it's psychedelic and anti-psychedelic. It's, it's mature. It's always male in myth, 99.9%.
Yeah.
And yet it's fundamentally transgender, transsexual.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, like what are your pronouns? Well, sometimes they're they, them. Sometimes they're she.
Yeah. Right. Whatever. The thing that I remember the most about studying the trickster is that it has such a compulsion to do its thing, to either make a prank or, disrupt, through the monkey wrench into the nice structure, that it will do it even at the cost of its own self.
Sure.
I mean, it will destroy itself. It's so compelled to do the trickster thing that it doesn't matter if it kills itself in the process. And so many of the myths around it are just that. The trickster will do something and it'll perish as a result of it. And that's part of its thing. So it's probably the strongest archetypal force there is, because most of the other ones do things believing or compel you to do things believing that it will be to your benefit. That may not be true, but it thinks it will be. It's just like the ego does that. It thinks everything it does or pushes you to do is for your benefit. The trickster knows that it's not and will still do it. It will. Yeah.
It's the nature. It's the nature of the archetype itself.
Yeah.
It has to be that way. It just has to be that way.
Right.
But the other thing too, there's the sort of the conditions under which the trickster is drawn out, and the conditions under which the trickster is drawn out are conditions of lack of cohesion, lack of trust, lack of structure. Mm-hmm. Because there's this perception of threat. Everyone's out to get me. Everyone's. There's no elders who are keeping things in place. There's a kind of free for all. I'm suspicious of everyone. So that draws on trickster energy constantly. My God, the blessing of trickster for us now is that we are being bombarded with bullshit every day, and everyone's doing this all day long, being propagandized and bombarded with bullshit, endless, tricky, insidious, slippery bullshit. If we didn't have the trickster to constantly, come on board, we would be instantly overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But it's also, but at the same time, it's the same people that are relying on that trickster to cut through the bullshit and cut through the propaganda will also tell you, I have an inner critic that from the second I wake up is eviscerating my every single move. It is ripping my core to shreds nonstop. Mm-hmm. The antidote is is sovereignty. It's not about you can't address the trickster directly. I mean, that's the trickster loves it. Please come for me, I beg you.
Yeah, right.
I can't wait.
I mean, it's like, I haven't heard this yet from anybody. I'd be curious to know if anybody's done a talk about this, about Trump as trickster. I think maybe Jordan Peterson mentioned that once, but
I don't think they get it right.
I mean, there couldn't be, in my opinion, a better demonstration of trickster than in Trump. And it's the only reason why I kind of like the guy now. I used to hate him like everybody else hates him and everything he said. And now it's like every time he does something stupid, I go, well, there it is.
But that's the thing, because you said it before. It's like, do you like the trickster? You're like,
yeah, right. No one.
It's not even. You don't even. It's like trickster. I mean, I half the time I like him, half the time I hate him.
Exactly. That's how it's supposed to be. Half the time you're not threatened by him, but half the time you are. It's like
we could do a whole episode on the nature of Donald Trump's tricksterism, and I would say what the best way to see him, I think the most liberating way to understand the world under Trump is to understand him as a trickster, and more specifically,
I agree.
As coyote trickster, predator trickster.
Right. Absolutely.
When you start to realize that he's coyote, then suddenly it all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. If you look at it through that lens, it makes absolute sense. Yeah, every bit of it.
There's a lecture by the great Robert Moore, who is a ritual elder of our work on the trickster and about Midway. Maybe we can even play this as our clip, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, that'd be great.
Talk about the particular coyote inflection of the trickster, and you see Donald Trump in a whole new light, and you go, oh
yeah.
So that's why I would say that, like anybody, it's the problem that we have when faced with that kind of leadership is that you have MAGA people that think he's the greatest thing ever, and go along and anything Donald Trump does, he's the greatest. They idolize him, and then on the other hand, you have, oh my God, everything that man does is the worst. If he does it, it's bad. It's right. Like, he could be if he started to have a pro-trans agenda, everyone would stop being trans.
Oh yeah. Well, that both sides of that are unconscious.
They're fundamentalisms.
Yeah. Right.
And so
yeah.
And so if you want to avoid the fundamentalisms of these things and to be in the center, which is liberating, by the way, because you're no longer compelled by an illusion of hope that everything is going to be fine under Donald Trump, or a terror of everything is going to fall to shit. The middle ground is for you to be in the trickster, and for the trickster to say, my trickster, I see you, I appreciate you. Do I like Donald Trump? The trickster in me recognizes a trickster in him, and I go, I see you in there, man.
Yeah.
Do I trust him? What the fuck?
No, of course not. No.
How could you trust Donald Trump? I don't trust Donald Trump.
You don't need to.
How could you fear him? Mm-hmm. I mean,
No, I'm with you on that.
He's
And
like,
yeah, that would be interesting. But I know for me personally, that's the only way I've been able to grapple the whole Trump phenomenon is because of seeing it through the Trickster, seeing that and realizing that all this stuff that everybody has a fit over. Read my article that's coming out on, I think it's this one that's coming out on Off Guardian. Do you look at Off Guardian at all?
only when you tell me to.
Yeah. So you do have access to it. I think it's coming out tomorrow. I think it's the right one. It's something to the effect of the liberal hate, and it goes into projection. It goes into the whole thing with the Trump stuff. I don't mention Trickster in it though. I wish I had now. I think about it, but maybe I should write a separate article on that. But anyway, maybe we could just sum up this role thing. You know me, I'm always going to go back to the first thing we talked about. I like all this. I mean, it's great, but
we didn't actually address one thing that I think may be burning in people's minds, which is to what extent archetypes are biological, evolutionarily driven. Because I think that's the kind of the sticking point. Like, I think, okay, well, one of the things that comes up a lot is like, are traditional conservative roles based in biology? And the unfortunate answer is kind of yes and no.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you look at biology, if you look at bodies, the reason that that male bodies gravitate to masculine roles and female bodies gravitate to feminine roles is partly evolutionary, partly biological. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's not totalizing.
No.
So just because it's easier for men, or men's bodies are more conducive to, for example, the hunt, doesn't mean by any means at all that women can't hunt. Not at all. But find that, like, your hips are built in a way that makes it harder for you to run fast, whatever. Like, that's because it's biological, right? Why do men? We were saying earlier, I don't know if it was on camera or off, but this phenomenon of like looking for something, and then you'll be like, "Honey, where's the thing in the cupboard?"
Oh, right.
She swoops and she goes, "It's right fucking there," and you're like, "Oh, right."
Is that biological though? How is that biological?
So I think that it has to do with like near and far like with salience landscapes. So the masculine salience landscape pops at a farther distance because you're looking into the future, right?
Is that evolutionary though? Is that a result of evolution?
Well, yeah, I think it's definitely evolutionary, but I think it's partly archetypal. Archetypally, you're predisposed. The masculine has the agitation that focuses it outward. The incompleteness that needs to be completed focuses out. And that's challenge and transformation in this work, which is, even though I can love myself sufficiently, there's still work for me to do. I still got to go out and do it. That makes you future focused. And so when you're looking on the horizon, you have the capacity to see things on the horizon coming forward and to be able to be prepared. So you can see the rustling in the bush, 50 feet off, so that you can be ready to shoot, or the enemy, rustling in the bush, so that you can prepare to defend. But when you're up close like this, and when you're under stress, you lose the detail. The feminine and female-bodied people are predisposed to be able to have that pop for them because they're doing closer work. Right. If you think
and how, again, I'm just being being trickster, devil's advocate here. What is that? What is biological about what you just said? Well, does it have to do with the structure of your eye, or what?
I would say that it probably has to do with the structure of the eye. It probably has to do with the neurology. I don't know. I mean, I wish I knew more about.
Well, we don't know anything about the fucking brain. Everybody thinks they do.
No, they do, and look, even if it was purely archetypal or purely cultural, I mean, it's still a phenomenon that we all know. But yeah, domestic work tends to be close.
Sure. And what I was saying earlier about your environment, that's close. Where men's are the field and
cardinal directions. That
yeah.
And there's probably, I'm sure you could look at research that would show that more male-bodied people would be able to pass a test of which direction's north than female-bodied people. Yeah.
Is that biological or archetypal or whatever? I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. What I always say, and I mean, I'm sure this isn't totally accurate, but I always say that male, female bodied humans, whatever, however we define that, are more likely to constellate the masculine or the feminine archetypes, are more likely to, they have a higher proclivity for, if it suits them, if it benefits their physical body existence, like if they're a hunter or they're fighting or whatever, they're gonna constellate. If a woman is fighting, she's gonna constellate the masculine warrior archetype.
Skeletal mass, like on average, men have more muscular skeletal mass.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a biological reason why.
It's much easier for me to chop wood.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then when it comes down to it, it's like, who's going to chop the wood? Well, I will.
But why? What is physical about being constellating the whatever archetypal power, if we can even define it as that says the man is the provider to the family, that he goes out and brings the bacon home or whatever? What? I mean, I guess that just goes back to the same thing, that he's the fighter, that he's the hunter. He can go out and bring something back because of his body. It's okay. Yeah.
So one of the great metaphors for archetypes is it's a magnet. It's a piece of paper with iron filings and the magnet underneath. And so if you draw the magnet, the filings just go in that direction. Right. So archetypal energy is the thing that pulls us toward.
Yeah.
So biology has the capacity to meet the demand.
Yes.
So it's,
why
do I feel driven to go out into the world and hunt? That's archetypal. How am I able to do that effectively? That's biological. And both of those things over time have converged to the point now where my drive and my biology have made me primed to do that work. Now, again, it doesn't mean that female-bodied, feminine identified people can't do it. And in fact, there's probably many cases in which they're better at it than a male-bodied person.
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
That doesn't change the fact that there isn't this archetypal, biological, evolutionary force in us that says, for a majority of people, it's just going to be easier. So that's why people are gravitating that way.
Yeah, and the physical body, if you're compelled archetypally, say, to be a great athlete, now where does that come from? Okay, but let's just say you are, and you're not. Let's say you're missing a leg or something, and you have to deal with that push towards something you physically are not going to be able to accomplish. That's a big part of the work we do as therapists too, is dealing with people that are driven by archetypal systems but don't have the match for it. Or vice versa. You can have the match for it, but not driven by any archetypal force.
And there's a huge in that gap between like desire and capability is where suffering occurs. So you have men who, oh man, I wish that I could have the physical prowess to feel that I could defend against an attack on my body and protect those around me for whom are vulnerable and who I love, the women and the elders. But I haven't developed physically enough in my body to do that. And I haven't put in the time to learn how to be skillful enough to be able to be in hand-to-hand combat and have some modicum of success. And so in that gap, there's suffering. And that's what I was saying before about actualization, which is like, go to the fucking gym. Look, show me a man who's anxious.
Yeah, right.
What are you worried about? Oh, I'm worried about the world's going to fall apart. And then what's going to happen? Oh, there's going to be anarchy. And then everything will collapse and things will collapse on me and I won't be able to push them off. Right? Go learn to deadlift and you can pull them off. Go learn to bench press and you can push heavy things off of you. If you have internalized an understanding that if something heavy falls on me, I can't push it off, you are going to be anxious.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think the thing will overwhelm me. That's what anxiety is always telling you. The thing is going to happen that I can't control and I won't be able to handle it. When you have physical prowess, you go, I'll be able to handle it. When you have hand-to-hand combat skills, you'll say, if someone attacks me, I'll be able to handle it. If you have emotional awareness, if I become overwhelmed, I'll be able to handle my depression, my sadness, my grief.
Yeah. And it goes beyond the physical capability. It's like if you were a martial artist, or you knew how to fight or whatever, and you were confronted with say losing your job, or you were in some kind of horrible situation that your strength and your ability technically would have nothing to do with fighting it, you would still psychologically have the confidence that's built in you. I can deal with this. because I know I can deal with that, so I can deal with this. Yeah,
it's one man who is terrified to lose his wife, to divorce, to death. And I'll show you a man who fears that he cannot nurture himself, he can't raise his children, he can't handle domestic chores. It's not just the loss of her; it's the fallout of my world will crumble because I can't meet those needs. If I can meet my own domestic needs and support and nurture myself, if I feel confident that I can raise my own children, I'm less anxious.
Yeah, right. Period.
But what will happen, what that translates into, is if a man's in a toxic relationship, he's being abused by a woman, he goes, I can handle it on my own. Fuck you.
Yeah.
The fuck out of here. What do you, I will definitely eventually need help, but I can, and this is the kind of thing where feminists are like, what, why should women have the ability to make money for themselves? If they're in an abusive relationship, fuck you. I can make my own money. I'm not relying on you. Yeah. I have a paycheck that I can fall back on. And so I'm not putting up with your shit. Yeah. So self-actualization and your capacity to build up your every aspect of yourself, whether that be in the feminine, in the emotional, and whether that be in the masculine, in the physical, building those things up creates that sense of security that no longer leads to this infantile obstinance of fuck you, I don't just because that's women's work.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
That's a man who needs to learn how to do women's work so that he can stop having to push that off in a very unskillful way that's causing his wife to feel disrespected and diminished, and ultimately to have for him to then live in a relationship in which he's resented.
Yeah, and it's like what you said earlier. The only reason why a man, say like this client's husband, the only reason why that freaks him out and he gets pissed off about it and told, oh, it's woman's work, is because of fear. I mean, it's just what you said earlier. It's like why not cook your fucking eggs? It's like, what is that? Why not do women's work? What does that mean? That means you're a woman? Oh my God, I'm a woman now that because I cook some eggs. Yeah,
they run cover for him. They go, oh no, that's the right way to be. He goes, I'm scared that I don't want to do that. And traditional, pastor will say, well, that's because it's a woman's work and you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Although I think that I often, many people straw man that because it is fucked up as evangelical Protestant American Christians are. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone up on a pulpit preaching that women are fundamentally weak.
Oh my God. Oh, I'd be an idiot. Women are the stronger of the two sexes in every way imaginable. We are like so fragile. Men are like, they're ready to crack. I know. At any, it takes almost nothing.
Yeah. It's no longer. Well, I think back in the 2000s and the 90s, it was kind of in vogue to attack because it was like it was the age of the neocons. And so we were blaming all the foreign wars on this Christian evangelical impulse. And but I think it's less in vogue to demonize the Christians. They're also making a comeback, which is annoying people. You have Jordan Peterson, who's, I think, a Christian. Apparently, I don't want to be spreading disinformation. Apparently, Joe Rogan has been seen going to church on a regular basis. I'm like, oh, there we go. Now the left is really going to get their dick in a twist.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Anyway, we got to stop. So,
all right.
I hope that was fun. It was for us. That's for sure. This was great. And thank you for being out there watching. Hopefully you are. Give us some more comments so that we know there are people that are interested in what we're
as always, push back on our bullshit, enlighten us to what we didn't get right.
Yeah, really. Otherwise we're just going to keep going down our narrow little tube.
These people are like, you guys are so full of shit. Well, good. Tell us in the comment below. Just be polite.
Honestly, really, because it does. Believe it or not, it makes a difference. We both have
somebody pulling their hair out right now, going like, "Oh my God, you guys don't know about this biological thing that proves the thing."
Yeah. Jesus, we're both students, and most of our life we've been students, and we still are. So, we learn every day from our clients and from what we read and what we look at and whatever. So, anything you guys have to say, we're going to very, very much pay attention to it because, man, I can't tell you the number of times I realize I'm wrong about something I thought I was so right about. So anyhow, William, say goodbye, and I'll say goodbye, and then we'll see you next week.